Have you ever noticed this strange thing? Two people can say the exact same sentence, yet one feels like medicine, and the other feels like a wound. One person can give you advice and your heart opens. Another person can give you advice and your body tightens. Why? Because your nervous system listens to something deeper than words. It listens to the mind behind the words. It listens to the energy behind the voice. It listens to presence. And here is the quiet truth. The energy you carry becomes the life you live. Not because the universe is playing favorites. Not because you deserve good or bad. Not because of magic. But because, as the Buddha taught, your mind is the beginning of everything you experience. When the mind is tense, the world feels tense. When the mind is gentle, the world becomes gentler. When the mind is fearful, life looks like danger. When the mind is steady, life looks like possibility. So let me ask you something that may stay with you long after this video ends. What kind of inner weather are you bringing into your own life each day? What kind of weather are you bringing into the lives of the people you love? If you can meet that question honestly, you can begin to transform everything, quietly, naturally, and deeply. Welcome, dear friends, to Buddha Peaceful Mind. If you are returning to this channel, welcome back. If you are new here, I'm glad you found your way. Tonight, we will share a Dharma talk in simple, modern English. A talk inspired by the Buddha's teachings in a gentle, healing, meditative tone. These are not meant to be perfect words. They are meant to be practice, a living reminder that what we cultivate inside becomes the world we live in. So please, settle your body. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. If you can, place one hand on your heart, or simply feel your breath. Take a slow breath in, and the long breath out. Let that exhale be a message to your nervous system. You don't have to run right now. We are here. We are safe. We can listen slowly. In the Buddha's time, people often came to him with big questions. How can I control my future? How can I stop my pain? How can I make someone love me? How can I guarantee my happiness? But the Buddha did not promise control. He offered clarity. He pointed to a natural law, gentle but unbreakable. What you repeatedly think, what you repeatedly feel, what you repeatedly speak, and what you repeatedly do becomes your life. In Buddhism, this is the heart of karma. Karma does not mean fate written in stone. It does not mean punishment from the sky. It simply means action. And the Buddha emphasized that the deepest action begins in the mind. Intention becomes speech. Speech becomes behavior. Behavior becomes habit. Habit becomes character. Character becomes destiny. So when people today say, everything is energy, the Buddha might smile and say, yes. And the most important energy to understand is the mind. Because your mind is the lens through which you see the world. And when the lens changes, the same world looks different. The same events feel different. The same life becomes lighter or heavier. If the mind is untrained, even a beautiful house can become a place of suffering. If the mind is trained, even a small room can become a sanctuary. So our work is not to force the world to obey us. Our work is to train the mind and let the world respond naturally to that inner change. Let me tell you a small story. A mother once visited a monastery. She said to an elder monk, "Please teach me how to raise my child well. I want my child to become calm, kind, and confident." The monk listened quietly. He noticed her speech was fast. He noticed her breath was shallow. He noticed her hands were trembling slightly, as if she lived inside a storm. He did not blame her. He did not criticize. He asked one simple question. "When your child makes a mistake, what happens inside your chest?" The mother looked down. Tears came. She whispered, "It burns. I feel fear. I feel shame. Then my voice becomes sharp." The monk nodded gently and said, "Then your child is not mainly learning from your advice. Your child is learning from your burning." This is not a message of guilt. The Buddha never used guilt as medicine. Guilt is a heavy stone. The Dharma is a lamp. This is a message of freedom. When you heal the burning inside you, your child receives a blessing without even being told. And this is true for everyone, not only parents. Your partner breathes your atmosphere. Your friends feel your presence. Even strangers sense the energy you carry. So the question becomes, how do we raise the quality of our inner life? How do we become a calmer home for our own heart? The Buddha's path is practical. It is not about believing something. It is about training something. Tonight, we will train 3 gentle skills. We will train attention. We will train speech. We will train letting go. And as these skills grow, your energy becomes clearer, not louder, not bigger, just clearer. Like clean water, and clean water reflects the sky. We begin by training attention. Why attention? Because attention is where your life is happening. You do not live in your whole life. You live in a series of small moments, and your attention decides the quality of those moments. If your attention is always in the past, you live in regret. If your attention is always in the future, you live in anxiety. If your attention is always in other people's lives, you live in comparison. But when attention returns to the present moment, something softens. The Buddha taught mindfulness, not as a trend, but as a doorway to freedom. Mindfulness means knowing what is happening as it is happening. When you breathe, you know you breathe. When you speak, you know you speak. When anger arises, you know anger arises. It is simple, but it is life-changing. There is a story often told in Zen which carries the same spirit. A student asked the teacher, "Please give me the secret to peace." The teacher said, "Drink your tea." The student said, "Yes, but what is the secret?" The teacher said again, "Drink your tea." The student became frustrated. "I came here for wisdom." The teacher smiled and said, "When you drink tea, just drink tea. That is wisdom." This is the Buddha's teaching too. When you wash dishes, just wash dishes. When you walk, just walk. When you breathe, just breathe. Because in full presence, the mind stops scattering itself. And when the mind stops scattering, your energy returns to you. You become whole again. Try a small practice right now. Wherever you are, feel your body on the chair or the floor. Feel the weight of your hips. Feel the contact under your feet. Now take a slow breath in and breathe out a little longer than you breathe in. Again, breathe in, long breath out. Now notice, even if your life is complicated, this breath is simple. The Buddha often returned people to what is simple, because the simple is where you can begin. You do not need to fix your whole life today. You only need to return to this moment and plant one wholesome seed here. In the teachings, the Buddha described the mind like a wild animal. If you chase it, it runs. If you attack it, it bites. But if you are patient and gentle, it slowly learns to trust you. So when you notice your attention drifting, do not insult yourself. Do not say, "I'm terrible at this." Just return, again and again. This is the practice. This is the path. A person with high energy is not someone who never loses focus. It is someone who returns quickly, without drama, without self-hatred. They return to breath. They return to the body. They return to kindness. This returning is a kind of inner strength. Quiet, stable, nourishing. Now, once attention becomes steadier, we can see something very important. The mind has habits. Some minds habitually search for danger. Some minds habitually search for approval. Some minds habitually search for what is missing. These habits create a certain frequency of living. You can think of it like a radio. The world has many stations, but you do not receive all stations equally. You receive what you tune to. If your mind is tuned to fear, you will mainly notice threats. Even good things will feel unsafe. If your mind is tuned to comparison, you will mainly notice who is ahead. Even success will feel empty. If your mind is tuned to gratitude, you will notice support. Even hardship will feel workable. This does not mean you control everything. It means your experience is deeply shaped by your inner tuning. So mindfulness is the act of noticing. What station am I tuned to right now? And when you notice, you gain choice. Choice is freedom. Without mindfulness, you are driven by habit. With mindfulness, you can step out of the habit, gently. This is how energy transforms, not by declaring, but by training, not by forcing, but by returning. Now, once we train attention, we train speech. The Buddha taught that speech is powerful because it travels fast. A thought becomes a word in one moment, and a word can land like a stone in someone's heart. Many people think spiritual means saying beautiful things, but the Buddha cared more about the intention behind words. He taught what is often called right speech. It can be remembered with 4 simple questions. Is it true? Is it beneficial? Is it timely? Is it spoken with kindness? These questions are not meant to make you anxious. They are meant to make your speech clean, because clean speech creates clean energy, and clean energy creates safety. You may have noticed, a harsh voice can ruin a whole day, even if the words are small. And a kind voice can heal a whole week, even with only 1 sentence. So speech is not a small thing. Speech is a form of karma. Speech is a form of planting. Let me tell you a story found in the spirit of the Buddha's teachings. A man once came to the Buddha filled with rage. He shouted insults. He tried to humiliate him. The Buddha did not shout back. He did not argue. He simply stayed present. The man became even more upset. Finally, the Buddha asked him gently, "If you bring a gift to someone and they refuse it, who does the gift belong to?" The man said, "If they refuse it, it still belongs to me." The Buddha nodded. "In the same way," he said, "I do not accept your anger, so it remains with you." This is a deep teaching. It shows us that energy is not only what we emit, it is also what we choose to receive. Not every emotion thrown at you must become your burden. Not every criticism must become your identity. Not every conflict must become your home. You can refuse to carry what harms you and still remain kind. That is very high energy. Not flashy, not loud, just free. Now bring this teaching into your daily life. When someone speaks sharply, notice what your body wants to do. The body often wants to tighten. The mind often wants to strike back. This is the old habit. Now pause. Even one breath creates a gap. And in that gap, you can choose. You can choose not to catch the anger. You can choose to respond later. You can choose to speak with firmness and kindness. A gentle phrase you can whisper inside is, "I do not need to catch what hurts." Try it. Imagine someone's harsh words like a burning coal being thrown at you. If you catch it, you get burned. If you let it fall, it is just a coal on the ground. This image is very close to a teaching in the Buddhist tradition. Holding on to anger is like holding a hot coal and expecting the other person to be burned. So when you do not catch anger, you are not losing. You are saving your own heart. And your heart is more important than winning. This is how your presence becomes steady. This is how your energy becomes clean. Now, speech has another layer, how you speak to yourself. Many people want a higher energy life, but their inner voice is constantly cruel. They would never speak to a child the way they speak to themselves. They make one mistake and say, "I'm useless. I always ruin things. I'll never change." This inner speech is also karma. It is also energy. It is also planting. So one of the deepest spiritual practices is right speech toward your own heart. Not fake positivity, not pretending everything is fine, but truthful kindness. Instead of, "I'm hopeless," try, "This is hard and I am learning." Instead of, "I ruined everything," try, "I made a mistake. I can repair." This is not weakness. This is wisdom. And wisdom is a high, stable energy. Now we come to letting go. If we are honest, a great deal of our suffering comes from clinging. Clinging to control. Clinging to being right. Clinging to a person's attention. Clinging to an image of ourselves. Clinging to how we think life should be. The Buddha taught that clinging is like tightening your fist around water. The tighter you grip, the more water escapes, and the more exhausted you become. Letting go is not losing. Letting go is opening. Letting go is making space. Letting go is trusting the truth of impermanence. Everything changes. There is a classic story in the Buddhist tradition. Two monks were walking after heavy rain. They came to a river. A woman stood there, unable to cross. One monk lifted her and carried her across. He set her down and continued walking. The other monk stayed silent, but his face tightened. Hours later, he exploded. "Brother, we are monks. We are not supposed to touch a woman. Why did you carry her?" The first monk looked at him calmly and said, "I put her down at the river. Why are you still carrying her? This is the heart of letting go. Most of what drains your energy is not what happened. It is what you keep carrying. A sentence from years ago. A rejection from long ago. A mistake from yesterday. A fear about tomorrow. You carry it in your chest, and you call that normal. The Buddha invites you to put it down, not because it did not matter, but because you deserve peace. Letting go is also connected to how we see ourselves. We cling to identities. I'm the strong one. I'm the broken one. I'm the one who must please everyone. I'm the one who can't be loved. These identities become prisons. But the Buddha taught that the self is not a fixed thing. The self is a process. You are not one solid story. You are a changing stream of conditions. This is good news because it means you can change, not by forcing, but by practicing. Each mindful breath changes the stream. Each kind action changes the stream. Each moment of letting go changes the stream. And as the stream changes, your life changes. This is why the Buddha's path is so hopeful. It does not demand perfection. It invites transformation. Slowly, quietly, deeply, like roots growing under the soil. Now, let us bring these teachings to the idea of high energy. In the modern world, high energy often means excitement, activity, achievement. But the Buddha showed a different kind of high energy. A mind that is clear, a heart that is kind, a presence that is steady. This energy does not need to shout. It does not need to prove itself. It does not need to compete. It is like a mountain, silent but strong. It is like the ocean, calm at the surface, deep underneath. People feel safe around this energy because it does not demand, it does not control, it does not attack. It simply radiates steadiness. So how do you become this? You do not become it by pretending. You become it by practice. And practice is always small. Small moments, repeated, become a new life. The Buddha described this many ways, but we can say it simply. Don't water the weeds, water the flowers. Weeds are things like resentment, jealousy, constant comparison, addiction to drama, self-hatred. Flowers are things like gratitude, patience, mindfulness, loving kindness, truthful speech. What you feed becomes strong. So if you want your energy to rise, watch what you feed. Watch what you watch. Watch what you listen to. Watch what you repeat in your mind. Your senses are the gates of your inner world. Guard the gates with kindness, not with fear, with care. If this channel, Buddha Peaceful Mind, supports your practice, a gentle like or subscribe helps this calm reach more hearts. No pressure, only if it feels natural. Now, let us go deeper with a few small stories and practices that make these teachings alive. There is a teaching in the Buddhist tradition called the salt and the river. A student asked a teacher, "Why do small things hurt me so much?" The teacher gave him a handful of salt and said, "Put this in a cup of water and drink it." The student did and made a face. "It's awful. It's too salty." Then the teacher led him to a river. He said, "Now put the same salt into the river." The student did. The teacher said, "Now drink from the river." The student drank and said, "It tastes normal." The teacher said, the pain is like salt. If your mind is small and tight like a cup, even a little pain becomes unbearable. But if your mind becomes wide like a river, the same pain cannot poison you. This is what spiritual practice does. It does not erase life's difficulties. It expands your capacity. It makes you wider. And when you become wider, your energy becomes spacious. Spacious energy is healing, because you stop being overwhelmed by every wave. You can feel pain without drowning. You can face problems without collapsing. You can be disappointed without becoming bitter. This is what it means to live with a higher mind. So we do not practice to become positive. We practice to become spacious. Now, how do we become spacious? We train the heart. In Buddhism, the heart is trained through 4 beautiful qualities: loving kindness, compassion, joy for others, equanimity. These are sometimes called the 4 Brahmaviharas, the divine abodes, the homes of a liberated heart. If your heart lives in these homes, your energy naturally rises, not as excitement, as purity, as steadiness, as warmth. Let us explore them gently. Loving kindness is the wish, may you be well. It is not romantic love. It is not attachment. It is goodwill. It is the decision not to be an enemy to life. Compassion is the wish, may you be free from suffering. Compassion sees pain and responds with care, not with judgment. Joy for others is the ability to feel happiness when someone else succeeds. It dissolves jealousy. It dissolves comparison. Equanimity is the calm wisdom that understands life changes, people change, things rise and fall, and I can meet this with balance. Equanimity does not mean you don't care. It means your care is steady. Now, if you want to shift your energy, you can begin by practicing loving kindness each day, even for 1 minute. Place a hand on your heart and say, may I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be free from inner harm. Then offer it outward. May my family be safe. May my friends be peaceful. May all beings be free from inner harm. This practice is simple, but it changes the heart. And when the heart changes, your voice changes. Your face changes. Your choices change. People around you can feel it. This is not performance. This is cultivation. This is planting flowers. Now, many people find it easy to wish well for others, but very hard to wish well for themselves. They feel unworthy. They feel guilty. They feel like kindness must be earned. But the Buddha's compassion was not conditional. He did not ask people to be perfect before they were allowed to heal. So if you struggle with self-kindness, start very gently. Instead of, may I be happy, which may feel impossible, try, may I learn to be kind to myself. Or, may I take one small step toward peace. A small step is enough, because small steps change the direction of a life. Now, let us talk about the emotions that often lower our energy. The Buddha spoke about 5 common obstacles, sometimes called the 5 hindrances. You don't need to memorize them, just recognize them. They are craving, the restless feeling of I need something else. Ill will, anger, irritation, hatred. sloth and heaviness, the sinking, dull mind. Restlessness and worry, the mind that cannot settle. Doubt, the mind that says, "This won't work. I can't do it." These hindrances are not sins, they are conditions. They arise when the mind is tired, when the heart is hurt, when the body is stressed. And the Buddha taught that you can meet them with wisdom. Craving is met with contentment. You gently remind yourself, what I have right now is enough for this moment. Ill will is met with loving kindness. You remember, hurt people, and you choose not to add more hurt. Sloth is met with gentle energy. You sit up, you take a walk, you breathe fresh air. You do one small wholesome action. Restlessness is met with grounding. You feel your feet. You return to the breath. You simplify your task. Doubt is met with remembering. You remember, small practice works. You remember past moments of healing. You remember that growth is slow. When you meet these hindrances with wisdom, your energy rises. Not because the world changes, but because the mind becomes less trapped. Now, let's make this practical. Think of the hindrance you struggle with most. Maybe restlessness, maybe anger, maybe doubt. Just name it quietly. Now, instead of fighting it, try to understand it. Ask, what is this hindrance trying to protect? Often anger protects pain. Often restlessness protects fear. Often craving protects emptiness. Often sloth protects exhaustion. Often doubt protects disappointment. When you see the protection, your heart becomes softer. You stop attacking yourself. And when self-attack ends, energy returns. Because inner war is exhausting. Peace is energy-saving. Now, let us move into a few stories that show how the Buddha's teachings transform real lives. There is a famous story of a man named Angulimala. He was once a violent person, a person who harmed others. He was trapped in anger and delusion. But when he met the Buddha, something in him changed. The Buddha did not condemn him. He spoke to him in a way that woke up his conscience. Angulimala eventually stopped his violence, became a monk, and practiced deeply. People still feared him because of his past. He faced consequences. He faced pain. But he did not return to hatred. He trained his mind. He became a different person. This story teaches us something important. No matter how low your energy has been, no matter what habits have controlled you, transformation is possible. Not overnight, not by pretending, by practice, by returning, by choosing again. The Buddha's path is the path of becoming. You are not stuck. You are not doomed. You are not your worst moment. You are a human being with the ability to awaken. That is why the Dharma is so precious. It gives hope without fantasy. It gives strength without aggression. It gives peace without escape. Now, let's speak about a very common place where energy is lost: the need to prove yourself. The Buddha often taught humility. He showed that real power does not need to announce itself. A candle does not argue with the sun. A flower does not compete with another flower. It simply blooms. In the same way, a person living from inner clarity does not need to shout. They do not need to win every conversation. They do not need to correct everyone. They conserve their energy. They choose their battles. They protect their peace. This is not weakness. This is maturity. Now, let's learn how to protect peace without closing the heart. This is where equanimity comes in. Equanimity is one of the most misunderstood spiritual qualities. Some people think equanimity means you don't feel, you become cold. But that is not equanimity. That is numbness. Equanimity is a warm balance. It is the understanding, I care, and I accept that I cannot control everything. It is the ability to hold love without gripping. Here is a simple way to practice equanimity. When something unpleasant happens, say softly inside, "This is part of life." When something pleasant happens, say softly, "This too will change." These phrases are not meant to make you sad. They are meant to make you free. Because when you remember impermanence, you stop clinging so hard. You enjoy beauty without fear. You face loss without collapse. Your energy becomes stable. A stable energy is very attractive, not in a superficial way, but in a human way. People feel safe around stability. They relax, they breathe, they trust, and trust becomes connection. So equanimity is not detachment from people. It is detachment from suffering. Now let's connect this to your daily life. Think of one thing you are gripping tightly right now. Maybe an outcome, maybe a relationship, maybe a plan, maybe an image of yourself. Feel where the gripping lives in your body. Now take a breath and imagine loosening the grip by 5%. Not all the way, just 5%. Whisper, "I will do my best," and I release the rest. This is equanimity. This is high energy, because you stop leaking life force into panic. Now, let us speak about the deepest framework the Buddha offered, the Four Noble Truths. We will keep it simple. The first truth: there is suffering. Life includes stress, loss, disappointment, aging, illness. This is not pessimism. It is honesty. The second truth: suffering has causes. Not only external causes, internal causes too. Craving, clinging, aversion, confusion. The third truth: there is an end to suffering. Not the end of all pain, but the end of inner bondage. Freedom is possible. The fourth truth: there is a path, a way of living that leads to freedom. This path is not a theory, it is a practice. And when you practice the path, your energy changes. Because suffering is heavy, freedom is light. So raising your energy is, in Buddhist terms, reducing suffering through wisdom. Now, how do we walk the path in daily life? The Buddha offered the Noble Eightfold Path, but we don't need to memorize 8 steps. We can translate it into simple living. See clearly, speak kindly, act ethically, earn your living without harm, make steady effort, stay mindful, settle the mind. When these become your life, your energy becomes clean, and clean energy changes everything. Now, let us take a break from explanation and return to story and practice. There is a story from the Buddha's tradition about a musician. A disciple was practicing meditation with too much force. He became tense. He became frustrated. He felt like he was failing. The Buddha asked him, "You used to play a string instrument, yes?" The disciple said, "Yes." The Buddha asked, "When the string is too tight, what happens?" "It breaks," the disciple said. "And when it is too loose?" It makes no sound. The Buddha said, "In the same way, your effort must be balanced, not too tight, not too loose. This is the middle way. And the middle way is also the way of healthy energy. Some people try to raise energy by pushing. They push themselves, they pressure themselves, they punish themselves. This creates a loud energy, but not a clean one. Other people collapse, they avoid, they numb themselves. This creates a dull energy." The Buddha invites you to a third way. Steady, kind effort. Like tuning a string, you show up, you practice, you rest, you begin again. This balanced effort builds inner power. Now, let's speak about a very practical question. How do you stop being pulled down by negativity around you? The Buddha did not tell people to isolate forever. He taught wise companionship. But even when you cannot change your environment quickly, you can practice one skill. Do not let other people's mind become your mind. Someone can be anxious, and you can remain steady. Someone can be angry, and you can remain kind. Someone can be confused, and you can remain clear. How? Return to your anchor. Your anchor is your breath. Your anchor is your body. Your anchor is your intention. Before you enter a conversation, set an intention. Say silently, "May I speak with kindness. May I listen with patience. May I protect my peace." This intention is like putting shoes on before walking on rough ground. It doesn't remove the rough ground, but it protects your feet. Now, let's explore anger more deeply, because anger is one of the biggest drains of energy. Anger is not always wrong. Sometimes anger shows that a boundary has been crossed. Sometimes anger shows that something needs to change. But anger becomes toxic when it becomes your identity. The Buddha taught that hatred never ends through hatred. Hatred ends through non-hatred. This means, if you respond to anger with anger, the fire grows. If you respond with mindfulness, the fire has no fuel. So when anger arises, try this simple 3-step practice. First, pause, even one breath. Second, name it. Anger is here. Third, soften the body, especially the hands, the jaw, the belly. Anger often lives in tightness. When you soften, you reduce the fuel. Then ask, what is this anger protecting? Usually, anger protects pain. Maybe you felt disrespected. Maybe you felt unseen. Maybe you felt unsafe. When you see the pain, you can respond from wisdom, not from fire. This is how your energy becomes mature, not reactive, wise. Let me share a small everyday story. A woman was trying to meditate every morning, but each time she sat down, her neighbor's dog would bark. She became furious. She thought, I cannot have peace because of this dog. One morning, she went to the neighbor and shouted. The neighbor apologized, but the dog still barked sometimes. The woman returned to her practice, still irritated. Then she remembered the Buddha's teaching. Suffering is not only the sound. Suffering is the mind fighting the sound. So she tried something new. When the barking began, she did not call it bad. She did not call it ruining my practice. She simply noted, hearing, hearing. She softened her shoulders. She let the sound come and go like a wave. Something surprising happened. The barking still occurred, but her mind became calmer. The dog did not change. She changed. This is the secret. Many people wait for the world to become quiet before they become peaceful. The Buddha taught the opposite. Become quiet inside, and the world becomes workable. This is not resignation. This is liberation. Now, let's talk about fear. Fear is another energy that shapes life. When fear is strong, you shrink, you avoid. You lose opportunities not because they are impossible, but because your mind is terrified. The Buddha did not judge fear. He understood it. He taught that fear arises when the mind holds on tightly. When you cling to certainty, fear grows. When you accept change, fear softens. So how do we work with fear? We return to the body. Fear often lives in the chest and belly. So when fear arises, breathe into the belly, lengthen the exhale, and say softly, "Fear is here. I can be with it." Then ask, what is the smallest, safe step I can take? Fear wants you to freeze. Wisdom wants you to move gently. Small steps build confidence. Confidence raises energy. Now let's talk about the subtle poison of comparison. Comparison is the thief of joy. The Buddha taught contentment, not as laziness, but as freedom from endless wanting. Contentment means, I appreciate what is here. It doesn't mean you stop growing. It means your growth is not fueled by self-hatred. So when you notice yourself comparing, return to your own path. A simple phrase, "This is their journey, this is mine." Or, "May they be well, may I be well." This transforms jealousy into goodwill, and goodwill is high energy. Now let us practice a short cleaning practice together. Close your eyes if you can. Take a breath in and breathe out. Now imagine your mind like a room. Maybe it has clutter. Maybe it has dust. Maybe it has old, heavy objects. You are not here to judge the room. You are here to clean gently. Choose one thing to release right now. Maybe a harsh thought about yourself. Maybe resentment. Maybe worry. Imagine placing it outside the room for a moment. Now bring in something wholesome. Maybe gratitude. Maybe softness. Maybe patience. Imagine it like fresh air entering the room. Breathe it in, and breathe out what you do not need. Again, fresh air in, old heaviness out. This is a symbolic practice, but your nervous system understands symbols. Your body responds. Now open your eyes. This is how energy shifts, slowly, gently, intentionally. Now you may wonder, if I stop chasing, will opportunities still come? In Buddhist terms, we could say, when your mind is clear and your actions are wholesome, you create the conditions for good things to arise. You become more reliable. You become more skillful. You become more connected. You make wiser decisions. You see possibilities you used to miss. So life begins to open. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped blocking it with inner chaos. There is a small story about this. A man spent years looking for a precious jewel. He traveled far. He exhausted himself. He became bitter. One day he sat down by a river, defeated. As he washed his hands, he noticed something sparkling in the water. It was the jewel, right there near his home, carried by the current. The man cried, not only from relief, but from realizing his mind had been so frantic he could not see what was near him. Sometimes, what we call bad luck is simply a mind that cannot see. A mind that is too busy. A mind that is too tense. So when you calm your mind, you begin to see. And seeing is power. Now, to keep this talk grounded, let's be honest. The Buddha did not promise that life will always be easy. He promised that you can be free inside life. Freedom means you can meet pleasure without clinging. You can meet pain without hatred. You can meet change without collapse. This is the highest energy. Now, I want to share a teaching about letting go that many people misunderstand. Sometimes people think letting go means, I don't care, I detach from everyone. But the Buddha's letting go is not cold. It is loving without chains. Imagine holding a small bird in your hands. If you squeeze, you harm it. If you open, it can rest, and it can fly when it needs to. Letting go is opening the hands. You still care, but you stop squeezing. This is healthy love. This is peace. Now let's look at the times when letting go is hardest. When you feel wronged. When someone hurts you, the mind wants to hold the story. It replays. It argues in your head. It makes you carry the person everywhere you go. This drains your energy. So what does the Buddha suggest? He suggests forgiveness, not as a gift to the other, but as a release for you. Forgiveness does not mean it was okay. It means I will not let this live in my heart forever. Forgiveness can be slow. Sometimes forgiveness begins with one small sentence. I am willing to put down one piece of this. That is enough. Now, let us take a moment to practice forgiveness gently. Think of a situation that still lives in your mind. Not the most dramatic one, something mild to medium. Feel the weight of it. Now breathe and say softly, I release what I can today. I do not need to carry everything. Now feel your body. Even 5% lighter is healing. This is the path. Now, I will share a story of impermanence that helps the heart loosen its grip. A monk had a favorite bowl. It served him every day. A student asked, "Aren't you afraid it will break?" The monk said, "I already see it as broken." The student was shocked. The monk explained, "I care for it. I wash it gently. I use it with gratitude. But I know it will one day be gone. So when it breaks, my mind does not break." This is a peaceful mind. This is a high energy mind. It loves without illusion. It enjoys without clinging. It accepts without despair. Now, let's return to relationships again, because this is where energy is felt most clearly. You may have heard the phrase, people don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel. This is very close to the Buddha's understanding, because feeling is the language of the nervous system. So if you want to change your life, a powerful place to start is change the feeling you bring. Not by acting, by being. When you enter your home, take one breath at the door. Let that breath be a reset. Say silently, "May I bring peace inside." You will still have problems, but you will have fewer explosions. When your child makes a mistake, before correcting, soften your eyes, soften your voice. Even 1 second of softness can prevent a wound. When your partner is stressed, Listen without solving immediately. Often, people don't need solutions. They need safety. This safety is energy. A calm presence is a spiritual gift. Now, let me share a small story of repair, because repair is one of the most spiritual actions. A father once shouted at his son in anger. The boy became quiet, distant. The father felt regret, but pride blocked him. He thought, if I apologize, I lose authority. That night he remembered a teaching. Real strength is not never making mistakes. Real strength is making repair. He went to his son and said, I was wrong to shout. My anger was mine, not yours. I'm sorry. The boy began to cry. He said, I thought you hated me. The father held him and said, I love you. I was overwhelmed. Something healed. This is Dharma, not perfection. Repair. Repair raises the vibration of a home more than any motivational speech. Because repair restores trust, and trust is peace. Now, let's talk about a very subtle form of energy, your presence. Presence is what remains when you are not trying to be someone. Presence is what remains when you are not performing. Presence is the simple, honest being of a human. The Buddha's presence was so steady that people felt calm just sitting near him. You may not become a Buddha in one lifetime, but you can become more present today. How? By touching what is real. Your breath, your feet, your hands, your face. Now, let's do a longer guided practice so you can feel what we mean by clean energy. If you can, settle again. Let your body be supported. Breathe in, breathe out. Now scan your body slowly. Forehead, soft. Eyes, soft. Jaw, soft. Throat, soft. Shoulders, dropping. Chest, breathing. Belly, gentle. Hands, unclenching. Feel your whole body like a mountain, stable, supported. Now notice your mind. Is it busy? Is it tired? Is it worried? Do not fight it. Just notice. Mind is like this right now. Now return to the breath. Follow one inhale all the way in. Follow one exhale all the way out. Again. If thoughts come, let them come. If they go, let them go. You are the sky. Thoughts are clouds. Now bring a gentle smile, not a fake smile, a small inner smile, like kindness, and say softly inside, may I be at ease. Stay with this for a few breaths. This is what clean energy feels like. Not excitement, ease. Now, when you feel ease, you become less hungry, less reactive, less desperate. You become more wise. This is the Buddha's gift. Now, if you want more gentle practices like this, you can quietly subscribe to Buddha Peaceful Mind. It helps you return again and again, like visiting a calm temple in the middle of daily life. Now, let's continue. There is another story in the Buddhist tradition that many people remember because it speaks directly to the human heart. A woman named Kisa Gotami lost her child. Her grief was unbearable. She went from house to house, holding the child, begging for help. Someone told her, "Go to the Buddha." She came to him, desperate, and asked for a cure. The Buddha did not dismiss her. He looked at her with compassion. He said, "Bring me a mustard seed from a home that has never known death." Kisa Gotami felt hope. She ran to the village. But at the first home, they said, "Yes, we have mustard seeds, but we have known death." At the second home, "Yes, we have mustard seeds, but we have known loss." At the third, and the fourth, and the fifth, every home had pain. Slowly, her grief changed, not because her child returned, but because her heart understood. I am not alone. When she returned to the Buddha, he helped her see impermanence, not as cruelty, but as reality. And when you accept reality, your energy stops fighting the impossible. This story teaches a profound lesson about your vibration. When you feel isolated in your pain, your energy collapses. When you feel connected in your humanity, your heart opens. Compassion rises, and even grief becomes more spacious. So if you are suffering today, remember, you are not the only one. Your pain is personal, but it is also human. And because it is human, it can be met with compassion. Now, one last teaching to hold gently. The Buddha offered many teachings, but he also warned against clinging to teachings. He used a simple image, a raft. If you cross a river using a raft, you do not carry the raft on your back forever. You leave it behind. In the same way, use these words as a raft. Use them to cross from tension to ease, from hatred to kindness, from fear to steadiness. But do not make a new identity out of them. Simply practice. Simply become freer. And freedom will show in your eyes, your voice, your choices, your life. Now, as we come to the end, take a moment to feel your breath again. Breathe in, breathe out. If you have listened this far, you have already planted seeds. A seed of mindfulness, a seed of kindness, a seed of letting go. Please be patient with your garden. Do not demand flowers tomorrow. Just water the soil today. And if you feel supported by this talk, a gentle like helps the Dharma travel farther, and a quiet subscribe keeps you connected to future teachings here on Buddha Peaceful Mind. Now, let us close with a simple blessing. May you be safe. May you be peaceful. May you be free from inner harm. May you learn to put down what is too heavy. May your words become medicine. May your heart become wide like a river. May your presence become a shelter for yourself and others. Take one last slow breath in and a long breath out. And remember, you do not need to control life to be at peace. You only need to train the mind that meets life. Thank you for being here. May you be well.